Welcome to the Net Profit College Basketball Show for a Saturday, February 19th. Ian Cameron and Connor Mack with you. We're ready to break down a huge Saturday in college basketball. I mean, we got about an hour and 40 minutes or so let's get right to it. No time to waste. We have to move with haste.
Yes! Shout
Let's
out to
get
Dale
to it.
right there, brother. $50 dono. Nothing's going to wake me up or get me more pumped than a $50 dono. Shout out to you, Dale. Man, we appreciate you. Even though, Babano, this has been my basketball. I said this yesterday on the show all week. And what do? 1-1-1 yesterday. One win, one loss, and a push. VCU scored a shit ton of points. I thought when it got to 134, I'd take the under. And it pushed. They scored a ton of points there late. But today, hopefully, we have a better day. Shout out to you, Dale. Shout out to everyone in the chat. I'm sure we'll get to all of them. But go ahead, Babano. Sorry. That hyped me up.
Great. No, that's better than any alarm clock that Connor Mack could use to wake him up.
Damn straight.
Dono. Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Dale. That's unbelievable. We appreciate it very much. Very kind of you to do that. Thanks to everyone for joining us. Hit the like button, 43 live viewers and counting here on a Saturday, and a big card on tap. Maxwell Smart will join us second hour for his added board plays. So we're looking forward to that. There's actually a few on the added board that I like as well today. So looking forward to talking about that for sure. Yeah, at least your bet in that Richmond game was a closer loss than mine. I had Richmond. They got just absolutely drilled in the second half of that game. Soft as usual from that team. Even
just
with a bunch
second half softness. Yeah. Yep.
Very disappointing. Man. With Gilliard and Golden and Burton, they should be a better, tougher team than that.
They choke.
Yep.
Yeah. They are just choke. You'd think after all they've been together too, and just everything falls apart, it seems like, in the second half. Just another year at Richmond.
Yep. Can't win big ones. All right, let's go to those Saturday card. Let's start with Xavier and UConn in the Big East. We got UConn 6.5-point home favorites, 140 the total in this one. As far as this game goes, UConn obviously is a team that's had ups and downs. They've had some turmoil. They've had some injuries throughout the course of the year, some key absences that have maybe stunted their progress a little bit. But you look at the last few games, they've won 3 of their last 4. Revenge spot here for UConn. They lost at Xavier 74-68. Just 8 days ago. So a quick turnaround here, and they'll get a chance at redemption. Xavier with an 86-73 loss to St. John's earlier this week at home. You look at their performances on the road. They had a ridiculous comeback in the second half at Creighton, but outside of that, winning on the road's been pretty much tough for them, especially against better teams. They lose to Marquette and Seton Hall. They get a 1-point non-covering victory on the road against DePaul. I like UConn here. I'm usually not a big fan of laying this kind of number with them, but I think in this kind of situation sets up pretty decently for them. The price is reasonable enough. It's not one of my top plays of today's card, but small bet for me here with UConn minus 6.5. I do think they're better, certainly defensively. And if look, St. John shot the lights out too against Butler yesterday, but still, you're giving up 86 points, 34 of 63 Xavier against St. John's, and you see them there. That's not going to cut it against UConn, who does bring it on the defensive end. What do you think here, Connor?
Yeah, Xavier's dealing with some injuries. I think some guys will be feeling better as of late. Johnson and them, I know. I think they're a go today, just, limping around. He's got a bad ankle. I think UConn wins. Just do you want to lay the points here with them? And I'm teetering, and I don't know. I think UConn wins. So I don't know. Maybe tease this down, or you maybe do a team total. I think they should be able to score as well. Xavier's not been a team. They've been more of a high-scoring team all year long. So maybe look at a UConn team total here.
Yeah, briefly, LaSalle and a UMass. I like the over there. I mean, UMass not playing great defense. LaSalle doesn't usually concerned about the early start time, but I do have a small bet on the over there. Connor, did you have any thoughts on that A10 matchup?
There should be points. I just don't love LaSalle on the road. I think it should get over 150. There should be points, and I'd actually lay it with UMass there. I think especially LaSalle's so bad defensively. If they just get a little hot from 3, I think they cover the 6. I'd lay it right there.
All right, TCU and Baylor. We've got Baylor 12-point home favorites, 139 the total. Certainly Baylor in a bounce-back spot, in theory at least, after the loss at Texas Tech earlier this week. But the injuries are concerning for Baylor. You're talking about key cogs. The Jonathan Chamwa-Chachua injury is just significant. No doubt about that. That's their glue guy in the interior. Who does it all, really. Can score around the rim, defend the rim, protect the rim, rebound for you, physical toughness and presence there. And, of course, he's out for the rest of the season, repairing multiple ligaments in his left knee. So that's not necessarily a good sign for Baylor going into this game. Can we trust TCU is the big question, because, we have seen this team. They've actually been pretty solid overall as a road underdog, but Oklahoma State, Iowa State, Oklahoma, were those wins, were those games where they did cover as road underdogs. The one game where they got blown out as road underdogs and did not cover was at Texas Tech, clearly one of the better teams in the conference. So can they step up here, even against an undermanned Baylor team, and get the job done? Luke Cryer, of course, is the LJ Cryer, rather, is the other one that's the key injury for them, the foot injury, and he won't be back until at least later this month. So you've got key absences here for Baylor going into this game. It certainly showed in the second half. And I guess what was shocking about that second half, C-Mac, about Baylor, is the terrible defense they had, which is not really something you see from them routinely, but they just got lit up big time by the Red Raiders in the second half. We'll see if they try to shore that up here. I would think they will. I would actually lean to the under here because, with TCU, you're not always going to get them offensively to deliver for you. I mean, they just got held to 51 points in a home loss to Iowa State just a few days ago. So I would lean to the under here. I would take TCU before Baylor because I really think Baylor's got some issues right now with these injuries. TCU has been good as road dogs, but like I said, the best team they've played by far as road underdogs was that game at Texas Tech, and they got blown out by double digits. They didn't cover. So that's the only concern I have, but I'd certainly give a strong lean to TCU here, plus 12. What do you think, Conor?
Yeah, me too. I mean, can this be kind of a repeat here with Baylor? Like, they just beat Texas by 17 after going to Texas Tech and then losing. They need to get healthy, and they're just not right. And that's going to, hopefully they can get healthy here, like conference tournament, because then the tourney comes, and I don't know. They're still dealing with injuries. Obviously, I still think they're the better team, but 12 here, I'd look TCU maybe first half. I think you get 6.5, maybe even 7, or go full game. I'd lean with them as well, taking the 12. This was a pretty strong lean. I didn't bet it yet, but I think TCU can hang in there. They're a little bit healthy. Everyone's back, so I think they can hang around.
We got an interesting matchup early on in the Big Ten at noon Eastern. Illinois, Michigan State. Illinois 1.5-point road favorites at the Breslin Center there in East Lansing. 136.5, 137 the total in this one. I like Illinois here. I understand it's actually Michigan State revenge spot. They lost to Illinois by 1 in Champaign earlier this year. It was actually closer, that final score, than you would think because Illinois was in control most of that game. Michigan State kind of made it close late in the game and made it interesting. Illinois is just far better than Michigan State, and you get them in a prime spot here, wanting to obviously show much better after getting ripped apart by Rutgers. And look, Rutgers has done that to a lot of teams on their home floor. I just don't know who's going to match up against Kofi Cockburn for Michigan State. I think that's a mismatch. I think he can do whatever he wants down low. He's going to get rebounds. He's going to give Illinois extra possessions, extra shots, extra field goal attempts in this game, because I don't think there's anyone that can handle him for Michigan State. And when you look at it, Illinois beat Michigan State in that first meeting by 1. They kind of hung on at the end, but they didn't have Curbelo. They didn't have Cockburn in those 2 games, Illinois, and they still beat Michigan State in that game. Now they've got everybody back, and they're off a loss that's not going to sit well with them. Illinois still thinks they're in the running for like a top 2 seed. So if they want to be in that running, they've got to try to go on the road and win games like this against, let's be honest, let's call it like we see it, a Michigan State team that's not playing well right now. They've struggled. They've not played their best ball. This is not like Tom Izzo teams in the past where they get going in February and start to play better. So I look, Michigan State at home has been beatable. Wisconsin went in there and just beat them wire to wire. They were ahead wire to wire against Michigan State here in this building, and that was Wisconsin doing that. So I like Illinois here. Win or lose, I can't argue with taking them in a pick'em situation because I feel they're the better of these 2 teams, and I feel we're going to get their best effort after a loss to Rutgers earlier this week. So I'm on Illinois. What do you think here?
Yeah, I do too. early on, this is a classic game for me that just I could see both sides in this one. I mean, this team, they played at Illinois. Michigan State lost 56-55. Do we see another rock fight in the Big Ten early game? Does this game stay under? Or are we going to see a bunch of points where both these teams, whether it was Michigan State kind of in December and January, same thing with Illinois, we're playing to the over. So tough one here for me. Michigan State, losers of 3 or 4. They have to win this bad. I know Illinois, they don't need it as bad. Obviously, they want to bounce back after that bad loss at Rutgers. I don't know how bad a loss it is, though. Like you talked about, Rutgers has been unreal at the rack. This one was just a toss-up. I don't see value on either side. You'd have to lay a few with Illinois. Maybe if you like them, look at them first half. Because I think Michigan State maybe plays better later, and this game's tight in the end. In a desperation mode, I think, for Michigan State today. Shout out to Jay Kaiser, $20 dono. My God.
Yes, my goodness.
Fuck yeah.
Way too much generosity. I don't know. Did you miss me, guys, on the NBA Pub Hub yesterday with no NBA Pub Hub? I don't know what's going on here with all the donos, but we appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it was all you, Baveno.
Yeah,
I missed you. Yeah. Yep.
We appreciate it. Thank you very much. No, it's great stuff. I mean, it's a lot of fun, and it's great to do these shows. I always say that. Everybody I work with on this channel is a great person. Lots of fun to be around, and we're going to show everybody that in March when we're in San Antonio, how fun we're going to be around. So we're looking forward to it. Thank you. We appreciate Jake, and of course Dale with the $50 dono earlier. Unbelievable stuff right here on a Saturday morning. Speaking of unbelievable stuff, should be an unbelievable game here. Texas Tech, Texas. In the Big 12, Texas 3.5-point home favorites, 128.5 the total. So this is Texas or pass. It's a question of, do you want to lay 3.5? Do you want to lay this many points? But you certainly know this is a home run spot for Texas on paper. They lost earlier this season to Texas Tech. They didn't treat Chris Beard very kindly at all. This team with that performance at Lubbock. They were very, very mean-spirited, I guess you could say, toward Chris Mack and his return. I think Texas can win this game. They've shown they can beat quality opponents at home. They beat Kansas at home just recently on a big Monday. And the one thing about Texas Tech, for as good as they've been, and obviously what they did against Baylor was extremely impressive, but Baylor was shorthanded. Kevin McCullough didn't play in that game for Texas Tech, so even more impressive they won like that. But still, Baylor was shorthanded. You look at some other games that they've won earlier this year. Actually, when they played Texas earlier this year, Texas was a little bit banged up in that game. Texas a little bit healthier now. Now they get the redemption spot here at home. And Texas Tech, undefeated at home. That home court's been that's where the road teams have gone to die, essentially. But on the road, Texas Tech has had some stumbles. Kansas State beat them on the road. Oklahoma just waxed them on the road just recently. So, obviously I love this Tech team. Mark Adams has done a great job, and they're definitely a threat in the NCAA tournament to go deep. But in this spot here, with some of the wobbles we've seen from Texas Tech on the road, with Texas, what they're going to bring here. They are going to be chomping at the bit after what happened in Lubbock earlier this year. It's Texas or pass. This is one game where I actually took the money line. I paid a price to lay -160 because I do feel that this could be, a one-possession game. I do feel this is a strong enough situation to bet Texas and pay up to get the money line as opposed to the -3.5. What do you think here, Connor Mack?
I could see that in that situation. I mean, they just beat Kansas by 3, right? They've been pretty good, though, at home. I think they want payback as well. Obviously, Texas Tech took care of business. Texas Tech had a huge second half against Baylor. I mean, just an unreal second half the other day and kicked their ass. Both these teams kind of been trending over, Tech and even Texas as of late, scoring more points. 3 straight overs, 4 or 5. Tech's been playing some over, so nothing on the total. Texas usually plays to a little bit lower scoring here at home, but maybe this is too light. And I would only lay it with Texas. I think the number's pretty sharp, though, at 3.5, but I'd only lay it here.
All right, would only lay it here with Texas as well. All right, we move on to East Tennessee State Citadel. I'm just going to be brief because I bring up Citadel every Saturday because I'm on an over with them. And that's the case. Now, their last game against Wofford stayed under, but look, Wofford plays defense. Wofford doesn't play with much pace. That didn't surprise me that game was an under. East Tennessee State, I don't know what's happened to them defensively lately, but they've not exactly been shutting teams down at that end of the floor. We know Citadel is going to get up and down the floor, chuck a bunch of threes, and we'll see if that can work here against East Tennessee State, who, as I said, we've seen them give up 77 in a loss to Samford. Furman did what they usually do, and that's put up points and score against East Tennessee State as well. And when you look at ETSU in terms of three-point defense, they're giving up 36% from three-point range the last 5 games. I mean, that's not great. And you're going to see a lot of that from the Citadel here today offensively. So this might actually be a good Citadel team total type of look as well. Not only the 152 for the full game total, but if you can find a Citadel team total over, I think that might be a decent bet as well. Connor Mack, anything on that SoCon game?
No, both teams shoot it well. You're right. They probably is 84-79 or something like that, or even go higher. But I've had too many times where one of these teams just takes one of them not to shoot it well here early, or a bad half, and this thing stays under. So it was a pass for me.
All right, briefly on a Metro Atlantic, because I'm a Metro Atlantic guy. Actually, that was the bright spot of my Friday night. Metro Atlantic, two bets in the Metro Atlantic, both of them cash. Ryder plus the points against Monmouth. Riders on the storm. They got it done, as well as St. Peter's in a bounce back spot. They finally got off the schneid after a couple of losses and beat Fairfield last night. So the Metro Atlantic was very good to me. I think it'll be very good to me in this game. Niagara Canisius. Niagara 2-point road favorites, 136 the total. I took Niagara here. I think it's a same kind of spot I cashed with St. Peter's last night. You got a solid team that's off a few losses in a row, and now they get a team they can beat. And Canisius is a team anybody in this conference can beat because they're arguably the worst team in the Metro Atlantic this year. Niagara already beat them I know it's Canisius revenge, but like I say, I throw out revenge when it's a team they're facing that's much better than them. And Niagara to me is much better than Canisius. Canisius is an awful team. They've actually been competitive lately, but they're like Louisville in the ACC. They just can't find ways to close games. They just cannot find ways to win games that are right there for the taking. And again, we're talking about a pick 'em price range here. Again, Canisius has to show if they're going to cash a ticket here, they can win a close game. They have not been able to. So I think for Niagara, it's a bounce back spot here. Did you have anything there, Connor?
I did not. I think this could go either way with Niagara. Obviously, I lean under in their games, but Canisius is a kind of an over team. They could score, but you're right. Wins are just tough to come by with them, but they stay close in games. I mean, 8, they lost to Iona. They beat Manhattan. They go on the road, lose by 1 to Marist, lose by 4 to Fairfield. It's just tough for me to lay a point or two with Niagara. I think they get the win. I just don't love it. So it was a game I didn't play.
All right, we go to Kentucky, Alabama, at Rupp Arena. We've got Kentucky 6.5, 7-point home favorites, 155 the total. So this, in theory, fits one of my favorite betting angles late in the college basketball regular season. Team that lost at home as favorites in the first meeting, which was Alabama, of course, against Kentucky. They lost at Tuscaloosa earlier this year, and they were awful in the game, especially shooting. We know Alabama is a 3-point reliant team already. We know that. There's no question with Quinterly and Shackelford and company. If they're not making the threes, they're going to be in tough. And they went 3 for 30 from 3-point range. That's not a figment of your imagination. That was the legit stat line for Alabama in that loss against Kentucky. 3 for 30 from the perimeter. And for a team that's very, very heavy on jacking up the 3-point shot, that's obviously going to kill you when you shoot like that in a game like that. You got to think they improve here. And now they're a road underdog, and that's another thing. Road underdogs off a home loss as favorites in revenge have been a great bet all season long here for the most part. Not every game. Like Richmond is an example last night. That was not a good bet on Richmond last night, but more often than not, they've been good games. When you look at this game, you got to think Alabama will shoot better. Now, you do have Kentucky off a loss to Tennessee, and they're certainly going to be chomping at the bit as well. But Kentucky with some injuries as well going into this game that are concerning. Ty Washington's been limping around and banged up for a bit now for Kentucky. Questionable with that ankle problem that's still bothering him. He actually didn't even finish that Tennessee game because of it. You got to watch out for that. And Alabama's actually played some of better basketball the last 3 games. At Ole Miss, beat them down by 14. Against Arkansas, they won that game at home. Arkansas about as good as any team right now, the way they're playing in the SEC. And then Mississippi State, they get a 80-75 win at home in their last game, and they pretty much led for the majority of that game. All we need to do is see them hang tough here and compete and hang in this game. And I think they are at least capable of doing that, especially if Ty Washington's going to be limited here going into this game. So the money's come in on Alabama. I agree. I mean, it's not going to be top play material, but I think there's enough to warrant maybe a look toward the points here with Alabama after losing to Kentucky at home earlier this year. Kentucky, by the way, at home has had some close calls as well lately. Let's keep that in mind as well. You look at Kentucky's home games recently. Vanderbilt was a sweat. Mississippi State was a sweat. So they've had a couple games where they've had lesser teams kind of go in there and hang tough right till the end with them. They did blow out Florida in their last home game, but I think very little of Florida, and we'll get to them in a bit. So, I think Alabama plus the points is worth a little bet here. Not my strongest opinion, but I think it's worth a shot. What do you think here, CMAC, Alabama, Kentucky?
Yeah, I think it's just a Kentucky team that, just needs to get kind of healthy for March. So laying 7, a little bit of revenge. And this is Alabama finally kind of catching a bunch of points.
Yep.
God, they just can't shoot a lick like you're talking about. God, they suck. They're horrible. So that scares me. Up and down, there should be points. It's just not a game I'm going to bet, but I'd lean with Alabama and take the 7 if I had a free bet.
So in terms of the total in this game, I do want to bring that up a little bit.
155.
66-55 in the first meeting. Like, it was 121 points, and the total was 156. But that was some extremely porous shooting. Like 20 of 75, 3 for 33 from three-point range for 9%. That's no joke. That's a real stat.
Could happen again.
Yeah.
Or if they're hot, this could be
over
in the 88, 84 or something. You know what I mean? If they're sniping. So
exactly.
Tough one on the total there.
It's tough. I mean, is there going to be, and this total's just slightly lower than the first meeting, 155.5. Are we going to get 34 points worth of, correction to what we saw in the first meeting, which was 121? You're going to need 35 points worth of correction to get this game over the total. Even if Alabama shoots it shoots the lights out from 3, like we're talking 40-50% from 3. Can this game still get over the total? Keep in mind, 70-59 last year in January with these two teams, 85-65 in Kentucky last year with these two teams, 150 that went over that total, but that total was 147, not 155.5. So that's a big number. It's not one I'd be in a rush to bet over. Let's put it that way. And I would need to see Alabama definitely shoot the ball better this time around before I'm ready to bet the over with a number that high in that game. All right, we go on to Notre Dame, Wake Forest. Wake Forest 5.5, 6-point home favorites, 144.5 the total. We've got Wake Forest. It's been a very, very solid second season for Forbes at Wake Forest. They're coming off back-to-back losses to Miami and Duke. Miami is home favorites. Duke by 2. We'll see if they can get off the schneid, bounce back here a little bit. Notre Dame, on the other hand, look, they've won 5 in a row. I don't want to. The Miami win on the road was pretty impressive, but I don't want to give them too much credit for anything else. NC State's struggling. Louisville's terrible. Clemson is very erratic, and I don't like Brad Brownell very much. I don't want to really give Clemson the Notre Dame credit for beating Clemson. And then Boston College is a bad team this year. They needed overtime to get by Notre Dame in that game, 99 to get by Boston College, 99-95. So we'll see how Notre Dame fares here against Wake Forest. I kind of feels like Wake Forest is in a good spot here, back-to-back losses. If they lost 3 in a row this year, Wake Forest, I don't think they have, just off the top of my head. They have been terrific in terms of avoiding extended losing streaks. Yeah, they lost at Louisville, at Miami, and then they beat Florida State. That was their only other 2-game losing streak this year. That's what this spot kind of feels like, too. They had a couple of losses, Miami home loss, at Duke, a tough one, because they gutted that one out, and they only ended up losing by 2. I think Wake is the side here, 5.5 at home, buy low spot. Notre Dame's feasted on the week during this win streak. I think it's going to be tougher for them today. What do you think, Connor?
This one's very interesting. All since that horrid night against Duke, where they couldn't hit nothing. This has been close. Oh, let me stop here. I gotta give a shout out to Isaiah Bolton with the $5 donor. Says thank you for always giving out different perspective on the game, sides, totals. Always bring home the winners. He doesn't comment, but he's always watching. Shout out to you, Isaiah. We appreciate
Thank you,
man.
Isaiah.
Thanks for the dono, my guy. Thanks, man. I really appreciate it. Means a lot to me. And at Babana, I'm sure. Everybody at Pub Sports Radio, all these donos, for real, keeps us rolling. I think this game is really good.
On great events like we're going to have next month, too. Let's point that
out. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can't wait. It's going to be crazy. Notre Dame's just kept on winning since then. I know they haven't beat you. You kind of threw those teams out there, but I think those are all teams Wake's kind of took advantage of and won, whether it's NC State, Louisville, Clemson. So two kind of even teams, maybe Wake Forest first half. This was a game I was kind of dissect because at 6, Notre Dame's played well on the road all year long. I know at Georgia Tech or at Louisville, but still went to Miami and won. I think this one's close in the end, so it's tough. If you like Wake, maybe tease it down. I don't like teasing basketball. I'm just saying that if because this 5.5, 6 is tough. So difficult game. Maybe Wake early, but I'd lean to Notre Dame for full game here.
Yeah, Wake Forest, before losing to Miami at home, they had been damn impressive at home in terms of they crushed Pitt, they crushed Boston College, crushed North Carolina at home, crushed Florida State at home. Like they had been destroying teams, winning and covering and blowing teams out at home until they lost to Miami. But I think they can bounce back here against Notre Dame here in this one. All right, let's go to Oklahoma, Iowa State. Iowa State 2-point home favorites here. 127 the total in this one. It's been definitely a little bit more tough sledding for Otzelberger and Iowa State. Remember, early in the season, they were just very impressive with how they were playing, but it's been a little bit difficult for them lately. But they played a pretty tough schedule. The West Virginia loss is a bad loss because they've been struggling. Kansas State at home in overtime was a tough one as well, but they played Texas. They played Kansas, Texas Tech. They played some tough games. They beat TCU in their last game 54-51. I should have been on Iowa State in that game against TCU because it was a revenge spot. I figured they were better than TCU, and TCU handed them one of their worst home losses in a very long time. But they did get the job done there in that one. Now they'll play Oklahoma. These teams played January 8th. Oklahoma won 79-66. I mean, I don't know how Oklahoma beat Texas Tech because other than that, their only other win in Big 12 play since mid-January was West Virginia, who've been a tire fire, really, have not been very good. They did battle Texas and Kansas down to the wire, very tough, 71-69, 80-78. I lean Cyclones here at home. I always don't like, I should say, fading Iowa State at Hilton Coliseum. It's a good home court. I get the sense it's a very close game, though. But I'd look Iowa State for probably a small play, -2, probably go money line instead. But, Oklahoma, the one thing they've done lately is play a lot of close games, and you worry that this is like one of those 1, 2, 3-point games. So I would prefer probably money line, a little safer option on Iowa State here. Maybe the under as well. What do you think, Connor?
That's what I was going to go to. Give me the under here. I think this is a little too high, even at 127. I thought this could have been lower, especially with Oklahoma on the road. Hey, they did not well. Last Saturday, they scored 55 with Texas Tech. I think this is an under, and you're right. I'd lay it with Iowa State. And if you don't want to lay the 2, take the money line. It's probably, 125? Yep. I don't know, something like that. So, yeah, I'd look there. I think they get the job done here.
All right, good stuff. We go to Auburn in Florida, big one in the SEC. It's a big one for Florida. They have to have this if they want to even get back toward bubble talk. Never mind getting in the tournament. Just get on the bubble, back on the bubble. You have to win this game. You have to take advantage of this opportunity if you're Florida. They're hosting Auburn. Auburn 4.5-point road favorites, 139. This line opened too short, in my opinion. It opened 2.5. It's been bet up to 4.5. I agree with that. Now, I know Auburn's looked a little bit more shaky on the road, of course. They lost to Arkansas, but Arkansas is a very good team. They almost lost to Georgia on the road. Let's not forget that. It's not like Auburn is, and they're only 3-5 against the spread in lined road games this year. So it's not like Auburn is a slam dunk bet here. But Florida, how many times do we have to see this team play someone good and not get the job done? It's time and time and time again. They haven't beaten anybody good, really. Mississippi State's probably their best win. That's it. I mean, at Tennessee, they lost by 7. They coughed up a big early lead. They get blown out by Kentucky. They're off a road loss at Texas A&M. It's just your typical Florida team under Mike White. The offense disappears. Sometimes they play defense, and other times they're just giving up open looks. They're dealing with a couple of absences as well right now. It would be Auburn or nothing for me. I'm done trying to believe in Florida in a big game against a good team because they've just come up short, I should say, in every single one of those instances. Like I said, Auburn's a little shaky on the road. I get it. You look at these last few road games for Auburn, they're actually 0-3 ATS, their last 3 on the road. 1-point win at Mizzou, 2-point win at Georgia. Those are 2 of the dregs in the SEC. And then, of course, they lost to Arkansas. So, yeah, I mean, 4.5, I don't know if I'm as enthused about Auburn, but I did jump on them when it was 2.5. Absolutely. I think they're still, even with their road issues at times lately, Auburn, they're still better than Florida, and more than anything, I just don't trust Florida. What do you think, Connor?
I just do not like this game. I do not like Florida. I do not like Mike White. They need this desperately, though. And is this the hiccup? Because Auburn loses again here. I mean, they're at Tennessee and they're at Mississippi State. I think they lose once or maybe twice the rest of the year till March 5th, their last game at home against South Carolina. Yeah, this game is just a pass for me. I had nothing on it. You're smart. If you jumped on it at 2, I would have took them. But there's something on the road, but they get the job done. They've been winning. But, yeah, they've had some nail biters and then losing to Arkansas on February 8th. So Florida's got to bring their whatever they got, whatever Mike White can get up for this team because they're just – that's all I have to say. No words to be said.
All right, Iowa, Ohio State in the Big Ten. We've got Ohio State 5.5-point home favorites in this game. It looks like, 5.5, 152, 153 being the total here pretty much across the board. It'll be interesting to see how this game plays out between these two teams. Iowa, to me, is just I don't want to say they were exposed against Michigan, but look at the wins. Look at this Iowa resume. How can anyone think and buy into this crap every single year that Iowa's a legit threat in the NCAA tournament? How can anyone buy into it? I mean, look at these wins. Minnesota, big whoop. Penn State, not at home, not a big deal. Minnesota at home, big whoop. At Maryland, they stink. They beat them, big whoop. Nebraska at home, big whoop. I mean, none of these situations where I'm excited about or enthralled with any of those wins for Iowa. They finally played someone good. What happened? They lost to Michigan at home. When they played Purdue at home, what happened? They lost that game. When they played Rutgers, who are playing some good ball right now, what happened? They lost that game as favorites. Iowa doesn't beat anybody good. Simple as that. Give me Ohio State here. Give me the Buckeyes, -5, -5.5. At least they'll play some damn defense. You don't get that from Iowa. In fact, Ohio State last 2 games after the loss at Rutgers. And look, no shame in losing at Rutgers. Everybody's losing at Rutgers in the RAC this year. Even good teams like Purdue even. Everybody, Rutgers beats really good teams at home. So there's no shame in Ohio State losing that game. They lost a 3-point loss at Purdue. No shame in that. And they got beaten at the buzzer in that game. Could have won it. Other than that, they played great ball. They blown out Minnesota, blown out Maryland, blew out Michigan on the road, crushed Minnesota 70-45 in their last game. Yeah, give me Ohio State here. I don't trust Iowa. Iowa's just typical Iowa. They can score sometimes. They can score a lot, actually. They're good offensively, but they're soft. They're not physical, and they don't play a lick of defense half the time. Can't trust a team like that. And they've beaten up on nothing but the sisters of the poor here in Big Ten play. What do you think, Connor? Iowa, Ohio State?
Yeah, they're just that second level, like down there, the second tier, kind of the middle of the road. Iowa is. I think Ohio State's better. 5.5. I don't know if you want to lay that. There should be points. I think this is probably spot on. This one right around 152.5 here. I want to touch on the last game. I forgot to mention in that Florida Auburn game. I wrote it down last night. I would take the under 140 if Florida wants to win that game and be in it. They've been trending to the under. They might have a tough time scoring. And Auburn's had some of their games that have been tight, have been lower scoring on the road. So at that total, I forgot to mention I had in my notes, I'd look to the under 140 Auburn, Florida.
Yeah, I mean, it's and Auburn can play some defense. Auburn plays with pace, but they're not always efficient offensively, especially on the road. And their defense is the best it's been under Bruce Pearl. So I don't mind that under whatsoever. So I'll lean to Ohio State here in this one for Connor Mack.
Yeah,
all right, let's
I
go
think
to Clemson, Louisville, just quickly. Clemson 1-point road favorites, 136. Look, as I've said, I am not the biggest fan of Brad Brownell or this Clemson team, but I'm actually going to back them here at a pick 'em on the road against Louisville. Just can't win games. All right, they try. The effort's actually been there in a lot of games since the coaching change, since Chris Mack got dismissed, but they just can't get over the hump. They just cannot win games that are, and I don't try. They're in a pick 'em price range again. How many times are we going to give Louisville a pick 'em price range and see them continuously fall short? They are just not finding ways to get over that hump and actually win games. Say what you will about Clemson. They should be good enough to go on the road and beat this Louisville team, which is just playing out the string at this point in time. A lot of chaos with that team and program this year. So for me, Clemson in this one. Any thoughts, Connor?
Yeah, I'd be quick. It's Clemson or nothing. You got to think Louisville might win one of these coming down the stretch, but you're like you talked about, they just can't get it done. Seems like they just fade, especially late in the second half. They can't make any shots. Horrible jump shooting team. They can't make any free throws. And that's not a team I want to back. Everyone was like, we were talking about even Miami. It was just take them to win. The game before that, Notre Dame, they might get a win. Nope. So yeah, this would be Clemson for me or nothing if I had to play it.
Yeah, and it's definitely. All right, Cheshire Cat, thank you very much.
Shout out.
$10 dono.
Hell yeah.
Cheshire Cat, he's been watching my content for a long time, multiple shows. So we appreciate it, Cheshire Cat. Thank you very much. We much appreciate it. All right, here's an interesting
See that?
one.
Wait, but Mano, he's stoked for MLB. Yeah, but like he said, whenever it gets going.
Yeah,
We
unfortunately,
might be
the
in
players and the owners
Yeah.
aren't so stoked because they're acting like the owners, especially. This is not so much on the players this time around. This is the owners. They're billionaires. They're greedy as fuck. They're lynching this great sport. Is what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they're doing. It's hideous. It's sickening. And baseball is going to be dead if they keep on going down this road because people have had enough. Like it's absolutely insane what the owners are doing right now. And they're the ones that are more responsible for this situation than the players. It's not even close. It's not even close right now. They're absolutely greedy sons of bitches. And I'm going to stop talking before I even get more angry.
All right.
That.
Let's
All
get
right.
back on track.
St. Louis and Davidson. We've got Davidson 2.5-point home favorites. 142.5 the total in this one. I'm always interested in the over with the Davidson game, but we haven't seen that be a slam dunk automatic cash in recent games for this Davidson team. Should be an interesting matchup here. You've got Davidson, even with the couple unders they played, Bonaventure and LaSalle. Last two games have gone over. The St. Bonaventure rematch had 162 points, and we saw 154 in a 90-64. Actually, sorry, that's St. Louis the last two games. Davidson has gone under in two of the last three games for them. Prior to that, they had a pretty good over streak. The one thing that does concern me is that you're going to get pretty slow pace here, both sides. In terms, especially from the Davidson standpoint, the series history has been trending under. As far as the side goes in this game, look, St. Louis, when you look at their performances on the road here, they lost to UMass, they beat Duquesne, who's struggling, George Mason barely in overtime, and you could argue they could have lost that game. They beat LaSalle, they lost to St. Bonaventure. It's not going to be easy going to Davidson and winning this game. I mean, Davidson, you look at their home record. They've been terrific at home, like they usually are. 10-1 at home. Their only home loss this year was to VCU. There may not be anybody playing better, or a few teams playing better in the A10 right now than VCU. Now that they've got a healthy Ace Baldwin and Vince Williams together, look what they did last night against Richmond. So that's the only loss at home for Davidson this year. I'm leaning Davidson here. I think there's a reason they're favored at home. We've seen a little hiccup from the Billikens a few times on the road here, so I would lean to the Davidson Bulldogs here. Davidson Terriers here. I would see this as a team that can definitely find their way to some offense here. The one thing about St. Louis is this has not been as good a defensive team, and on the road they've given up some brutal numbers: 91 to UMass, 90 to George Mason, 83 to
Yes.
St. Bonaventure. You say defense travels, not for St. Louis. It has not traveled recently, so this would be a lean for me to Davidson. Actually, I will take them, I think, on the money line. What do you think, Connor?
I lean Davidson as well, but thanks for reading that off. This St. Louis team, I know the last few games have gone under, but they on the road haven't played much defense. And I think Davidson, they're not the fastest paced teams, but both these teams, especially Davidson, are efficient on offense. And they hit jump shots. So this has come down because I think of series history, like you talked about, it's gone under. So this keeps coming down a little bit, maybe touches 140. I'm going to take the over because this opened up at 144 and I see 141.5.
Yep.
If it goes down a little more, I'm going to take the over.
I think it's worth a look, definitely, and let it maybe trickle down a little bit more because we have definitely seen some under money. You'll get a better number maybe if you hold out a little bit longer. And when you look at St. Louis, 5-3 to the over on the road. They're only actually 8-7 to the under at home, but 5-3 to the over on the road for the Billikens. So that goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about. They do seem to be a team that defense just doesn't go with them on the road for the most part. And we've seen that certainly of late for the Billikens. All right, let's go to LSU, South Carolina, SEC. LSU 4.5-point road favorites, 141 the total. I totally get why this total's been blasted up from 138 to 141. Have you seen the series history, LSU, South Carolina? Over Palooza is what it has been with these two teams. One over after another. The over is cashed in 6 straight head-to-head games, and it's been over with room to spare. 94-83, 88-63, 83-74, 89-67, 86-80, 85-80. You do the math, and these games are getting high 140s, 150s, even 160s head-to-head, LSU and South Carolina. And remember LSU earlier this season? Dead nuts under team, terrific under team, great defensive team. Well, the defense hasn't been necessarily as good lately. Those losses, TCU, they gave up 77. Ole Miss, who's not the best offensive team by far in the SEC, and they gave up 76 to Ole Miss in a loss, 75 to Vanderbilt in a loss as well. Now, the last 3 games, they've been better defensively, but again, A&M, Mississippi State, Georgia, bottom feeder teams. You're playing South Carolina can score. That's the best thing you can say about this team. They've eclipsed 76 or more points in 3 straight games, and they've done it against Kentucky. Georgia, not so much, but Kentucky scored 76 against them. That's pretty good. And 77 against an Ole Miss team. The defense is their strength. Frank Martin's team plays, I think, 3rd fastest tempo in the SEC. They've gone over the total in 6 straight. For LSU, it's 6-1 to the over in their last 7 games. Then you add on that series history. Sign me up for over 141, 142 here. It's gone up. I think there's still some value to go over the total. As far as the side goes, I'd actually maybe look at the home dog here, to be quite honest with you, Connor. South Carolina, they've covered 3 in a row. They hung tough with Kentucky on this floor. They beat Ole Miss on the road in overtime, crushed Georgia. Starting to turn things around a little bit. After a little bit of a struggle there, they got blasted by Tennessee. Ever since then, we've seen a competitive outfit here for South Carolina. And the one thing about LSU on the road lately is it's been a little bit susceptible to not playing their best. So you could look at this as maybe a spot to back South Carolina here, plus 4.5. I'm not ready to lay points on the road here with LSU. I like elements of this team, but they're still – I think they peaked early. I don't think you're seeing LSU's absolute best basketball right now. It oddly seems that even with getting Pinson back, they haven't been necessarily that hasn't given them the boost that I thought it would, for a guy that they missed. And yet they haven't really taken off and played crisp basketball both ends of the floor since he came back. So I lean to South Carolina, and I certainly like the over in this game. What do you think, C-Mac?
I'm not going to touch the total. You might be right. South Carolina's been going over. And they started dropping the LSU lines way low. And they went over. It's just it's not enough. I need South Carolina. I need 8.5 here to want to back them at home. 4.5 is not enough. This is not a play for me, but I'd actually lay it with LSU if I had to, which is crazy. I don't like laying points a lot on the road, but I'd lean that way with LSU here.
All right, lean into LSU here in this one. All right, we're going to stay in the SEC for this next one. Tennessee and Arkansas. We got Arkansas 2-point home favorites, 138 the total. I mean, just JPZ, $10 dono. Thank you very much.
Easy.
Appreciate it.
Hell yeah, my
With
man.
us every day. We appreciate it, my man. Thank you very much. I'm on Arkansas here. I've been riding this team. I've been betting this team just almost every game for weeks now. Caught onto it early, Connor, when they started to go on this great run of theirs that, they were turning a corner. They were playing some good basketball. 7-0 ATS their last 7 games, 6-1 straight up. The only loss was at Alabama by a single point, and they covered the number in defeat in that game. They beat West Virginia, won and covered at home. They beat Auburn in overtime at home, of course, and Mississippi State as well. They're playing some serious defense right now, which is good to see. Their offense and their shooting is always what you worry about just a little when it comes to Arkansas. But, I like what I've seen even from them shooting the basketball. And when you look at this Arkansas team, that's been significant for them, is that they've actually been able to get their shooting going in the last few games. And, they've had 5 double-digit scores in the game against Missouri, which was significant. They've had multiple players step up. Now, Tennessee coming off the huge win against Kentucky. Kentucky handed them one of their most lopsided, horrendous losses of the year earlier at Rupp, and Tennessee paid them back a few days ago. And now they're going on the road, tough environment, Arkansas here. I think it sets up nicely for the Razorbacks. I like them. I'm going to take a money line here, minus 130 as opposed to minus 2. I'm not screwing around with the lay and the 2 points. Just give me the win. Arkansas minus 130. This could be a sneaky over as well. And I understand this total's 138. I don't know about you, but Tennessee's not that automatic dead nuts under anymore. They've actually gone over 4 of their last 7 games. This is another head-to-head where it's been dominant for overs. 7 straight overs head-to-head with the Razorbacks and the Vols. So it's over for me at 138 in this game. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I'm with you, Arkansas at home. I think the number's too short. Even though Tennessee's played better on the road kind of a little bit lately, but teams like South Carolina and Mississippi State, teams they should handle. I'm waiting to fade them. They're decent at home, and I'll maybe back them. But on the road, like earlier in this year, they went to LSU, lost by 12, got beat down by Kentucky. I wouldn't want to go into Fayetteville. I only be on Arkansas here.
All right, Arkansas here. All right, North Carolina, North Kakalaki, Virginia Tech in the ACC. We got Virginia Tech 4.5-point home favorites in this game. The total 144.5. I like the Hokies here. Revenge spot. They lost at North Carolina earlier this year. It was one of their worst games. I think they bounce back here. And look, I saw all I needed to see from North Carolina against Pitt. That was about as bad a game as you'll ever see. I can't believe how awful that team. To think that North Carolina's just had these terrific offensive teams over the years, and they could barely muster 60. They didn't even muster 60 points against Pitt. Are you kidding me? Earlier this week, I mean, just dreadful stuff from North Carolina. Virginia Tech is on fire. Yes, I'm concerned that they don't have much bench depth, but they've got guys that have stepped up for them and played extremely well. You've got their 3-point shooting's been terrific. I find their rebounding's improved a little bit, and that's always, an important component when you're playing North Carolina. We've seen some of those numbers go up for Virginia Tech, and I just like the way this collective is playing at the moment. Kevi Aluma's been terrific, 15.8 points per game. Justin Mutt's 10.3. They've got a dead eye. Just can get red hot especially from beyond the arc with Hunter Couture as well on this Virginia Tech team. This is a very good, very efficient offense right now. And that's what Mike Young coaches way back when he was with Wofford too. His team would always run good offense, good sets, ball movement, spacing, all that. Virginia Tech's got it going, and they brought the defense. Their defense has been stifling teams. They held Pitt, Syracuse, and Virginia, each of their last 3 games and their last 3 wins, to 47, 59, and 53 points. So they have found it defensively. They are in revenge here. They're the better team. They're at home. They're only laying 4.5. I like the Hokies here. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, I circled this. 2 teams going different directions. Of course, North Carolina has the talent, maybe go on the road and play here. But this is the Virginia Tech team I've been waiting for. That was earlier in the year that was struggling. Just kind of I don't know, a month ago, 4 or 5 weeks ago. Now they've been playing great basketball. I circled this last night right away. Lay it here with Virginia Tech. It's the only way I could look, especially if they're shooting that well and the defense looks like that. And what happened with North Carolina? I mean, at home to lose to Pitt, a team that struggled to score, like 14-point favorites. Man, tough times right here at now in Chapel Hill there for North Carolina.
Tough times indeed. All right, we're going to go to a terrific game in this Conference USA. North Texas, UAB. We've got UAB 4.5-point home favorites, 125 the total. North Texas lost at home early in the season to UAB. So this is North Texas in revenge here in this game. And I'm kind of tempted by them with the 4.5 points, the mean green here on the road. It's going to be a pace war. Andy Kennedy's UAB team, terrific offensively. They want to push pace. They want to get up and down the basketball court. North Texas wants to slow it down, turn it into a half-court grinder of a game. And I think North Texas, and I don't mind backing North Texas on the road. Not that they can't play well at home, but I find this team often, is not at all in awe of playing on the road. They're 7-0 straight up on the road this year. They can go into tough environments and win. I've certainly liked the way they've played lately. They're on an incredibly long win streak, double-digit win streak. UAB has played, they played well too, but they've had some missteps, and particularly on the road. You look at them on the road, they lost at Rice. They did beat Louisiana Tech. They did narrowly escape Western Kentucky, but only won by 3. Winning by 3 is not going to get the job done. So you look at it here. At home, they've been obviously good, but they've played a lot of weaker teams lately at home.
Exactly.
Florida Atlantic, Florida International, Southern Miss is a disaster. They're horrendous. Rice can't play a lick of defense, and we saw that the other night. That's why I was on Rice UAB over the total the other night, because I knew that UAB was going to get whatever they wanted against Rice, but Rice was good enough offensively to chip in as well, and that's exactly what happened. Game went over the total. At plus 4.5, I lean North Texas here. I really think there's a chance that they can. Now, I don't like the fact they've had a tough time matching up against UAB. You look at recent head-to-heads; they've struggled against UAB, but I like them here a little bit. UNT plus 4.5 here. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, that's why this number I think is where it's at, because I'm not that impressed by UAB at all. Yeah, they can score, but I saw some of these losses. I watched that Old Dominion game they lost. At Old Dominion, which isn't a very good team, especially offensively. Not only take North Texas plus 4.5, I will take it money line here as well. This team's too good on the road. They want revenge. They have the better defense. And you're right, it's going to be a whole different UAB wants to get up and down. North Texas doesn't want to at all. The total's a little low, but hey, North Texas can stifle them. I think they do. I think I might stay off the total. I'd still lean under, but I will be taking the 4.5, and I will be taking a money line here. Max.
North Texas plus 4.5 and a little money line as well for Connor Mack in that one. Great timing for Maxwell Smart joining us here, because to be honest with you, we don't have many more big games left on the main card. We've gotten through most of them. There's a couple more we'll get to, but great time to go into the added board. Always exciting when we can talk added board college basketball with our pal, our expert, our guru here, Maxwell Smart. Max, how are you doing on this wonderful Saturday?
Ian, I'm doing quite well. Last night, I was able to take a late night stroll with the lady of the night by the YMCA homeless shelter, and I was able to show her off to all the broads that I usually have to pay.
You showed her the hot
on
spot
a losing night. Yeah. So it was good. There almost was a cat fight. Thank God there wasn't. Otherwise, the Toronto police would have been called. And those guys, they're brutal. So I'm glad that I was able to avoid those bacon lovers. And I'm glad to be here with you both. And I'm ready to fucking break down some games.
Absolutely. Yeah. It reminds me of Kramer every time I hear that word. Yeah, cat fight. Yeah. Man, one of my favorite lines from Seinfeld back in the day. All right, Connor, there's some good added board stuff that I like, actually, so I'll throw a couple of them at you. But let's get to Maxwell Smart's first game on the added board.
Yeah, I think that we got to go to a big, dirty spread, and we got to look at this Central Connecticut State Wagner game. Wagner, losing Elijah Ford was a big loss for them, and their 3-point shooting obviously is even worse off than it was before without him. I think that with Wagner needing to win this game and just needing to win because they are holding a 1-game lead over Bryant in the conference standings, I think that this is a spot where we're going to see Wagner come out with a little better performance. I think that at numbers like this, I'm always going to be looking towards a team total, especially when we're getting a line in the 129 range. So if you can really get a team total that's under 75, I do think that Wagner is going to be able to cash that. And I say this, Ian, because this Wagner team has made some pretty nice second half comebacks, including in their last game against Sacred Heart. The way that they score inside with Will Martinez and Raekwon Rogers just goes so well with what Alex Morales can do in general. I think that while Patrick Sellers' team is much better defensively and at this number, I think that the Wagner team total is definitely the best play to get on in this game.
Yeah, I made the mistake of fading Wagner a few games ago just because Mount St. Mary's had been such a good point spread team for me. And I said, Mount St. Mary's getting a few too many points here in that game at Wagner. And Wagner just, I think it was over at halftime, essentially. They couldn't miss in that game, and they ended up winning by 12. So I said, you know what, that might be the last time we fade Wagner for a period of time. And they did have that little hiccup, as you mentioned, Max, 80-65 overtime losses, 12-point favorites against Merrimack. But they did bounce back against Sacred Heart. So we'll see if they can keep it rolling here today against Central Connecticut State, who just played Bryant, actually. And oddly enough, Bryant struggled offensively there in that game for extended stretches. I was not expecting that the other night against Central Connecticut State, but they did enough to get the win. It just wasn't their best offensive game. Speaking of Bryant, I don't know if this was on your card, Max, but I'll bring it up now since we're in the NEC type of mode right now. What did you think of that? What do you think of that Fairleigh game? Fairleigh Dickinson, FDU against Bryant.
Yeah, I think that with Fairleigh Dickinson, you really just never know what you're going to get. I really like the fact that Greg Herenda has been really solid with deciding, listen, if you guys don't, if my upperclassmen don't want to perform and play the way that I'm coaching them to, then I'm going to go with a bunch of first years. And going with Oscar Berry and Anquan Hill and Sebastian Lamoute has worked out pretty well for them. I do think that this is a game, though, that they're going to have to run and gun. They're not going to be able to clamp up on defense. And if Bryant decides to pull out the zone, I do think that they're going to have to be able to shoot over it. I like the fact that this Fairleigh Dickinson team has so much fight. I think that they can dominate down low, especially if Hal Elias and Greg Calix aren't available or are in foul trouble. I look towards the dog in this spot, but I'd have to look towards a Bryant full game over as far as the total.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I mean, the first thing I think of when I see a Bryant under and a game where Bryant really, struggles, by their standards, they struggled offensively against Central Connecticut the other night. I'm always interested in the shooting correction the next game, that they get back to the levels, because we know they can hang an 80 spot and a 90 spot when they're on top of their game against anybody. So that could be today here against Fairleigh. So I'm with you on that full game over, because that's what I was looking at as well.
And I'll say this, Ian, Charles Pride had a terrible game after having outlier after outlier performance. I expect him to have a big game and not miss close buckets like he did against the Blue Devils.
Yeah, there you go. I agree with that. All right, we'll get another look in a second from Maxwell Smart on the added board. Let's go to Georgetown Villanova, though, for a second. Big East action. Villanova, 20-point home favorites, 145. I bring this up because I like the over here. Villanova's actually trended over. Georgetown can't stop anybody. They have not been able to stop Villanova in any recent meeting head-to-head. And I think we got points here in this game. And to be honest with you, Villanova's defense has not been, obviously, probably up to the standard Jay Wright wants in recent games. We've seen them give up some points a little bit. And you always say in what should be a romp for Villanova, I'm certainly not going to lay 20, but there's not really a big case to be made for Georgetown, who just cannot stop anybody right now at the defensive end of the floor. You always say in a big lopsided game, I find there's a lot of, just back and forth, and a lot more fouls, just a lot more you give up defensively because it's just such a lopsided score. And I actually think it benefits overs, to be honest. I know there's some people that disagree with that philosophy, that sometimes in a blowout game, it can turn into an under. I find there's a lot more scramble points, in the final 5 minutes. The team that's up cruises and turns it off defensively a little bit. And that's when you could see Georgetown score a flurry of points late, help you get over if you're in that situation. But to me, you may not even be able to sweat it. I got a 143.5 at DraftKings on the over in this game, and it's since gotten bet up a little bit. So that's what I'm looking at here is over. Connor, did you have anything here with Georgetown Villanova?
Yeah, Georgetown's pathetic. I mean, Nova should get at least 85 in their sleep, more like 90, especially lately. They just no defense. Yeah, look at their team total. I guess it could slip over as well. It's already moved up a little bit. Because there's always that junk time points. Because it stay under? The Villanova does have a pretty good defense. They are at home, or is there just kind of those late points that'll push it over?
Yeah, definitely. So again, I just cannot take Georgetown even getting 20. It's just a question of, are you comfortable with laying the
20 points? You ever
That's
think about that?
That's certainly
Georgetown?
a lot. Yeah.
Man, what a program.
What a
Hit the shits.
program. Yeah, what a program. It's pretty sad. I mean, both Thompsons, whether it's John Thompson Sr. or Jr. for that matter, they can't be thrilled seeing what's happened to that institution, no doubt. Did you have anything on that game, Max?
Yeah, the only thing that I'll say is that if Villanova is going to rout this Georgetown team, I'm looking to take a Georgetown team total under live at halftime.
Yeah, definitely, because you could see them just basically say, not our day, when it's not been their day a lot this year. That is for damn sure. All right, Max, what do you got next up?
Yeah, I've got to go back to the NEC because obviously I am the NEC governor. I self-appointed myself that title and that role. It's a non-paying one, but I'm okay with it. I think that this is a real interesting spot because we saw the Mount be very, very susceptible to inside scoring last time out. And not to mention their perimeter offense was definitely lackluster, missing Jalen Benjamin. If Jalen Benjamin does not play today, I do think that LIU is going to walk all over them. Unfortunately, while I do like DeAndre Thomas and Dakota LeFew, they are decent ball handlers. They're just not able to limit their turnovers. And if this LIU team can turn up pressure on the Mount, I do think it is going to lead to some inefficiencies when it comes to the ball handlers. Obviously, we've seen Jalen Gibson take a real step up in Benjamin's absence, but I just don't think he has the intangibles to be able to replace that lost production. At the end of the day, there's too much inside action for LIU. Ty Flowers is playing his best basketball of the year. I expect him to have a big game for anybody that can get him on a monkey knife pick or a prize pick lineup. And I expect LIU to win this game, and I think that the number reflects that also.
All right, there we go. A little LIU, Long Island, Brooklyn for Maxwell Smart in that one. Great stuff there. All right, let's go to another main board. Again, we don't have many more left. We've gotten through a lot of the big games. Virginia, Miami, we'll talk that one next. Miami 2.0 home favorites, 126.5 the total in this game. Miami at home -2 is intriguing to me. They lost at Virginia earlier this year. It's probably one of the worst games they've had offensively. Now, look, Virginia's defense with the pack line is good enough to make a lot of teams struggle against them. But I think for Miami here, you look at since that loss to Virginia, they've won 3 straight. They've bounced back. They've looked good. Virginia, last time out against Virginia Tech on the road, 62-53, losing to the Hokies. They're now on the road twice in less than a week. That's usually a negative situation when you're talking about 2 road games in a row for Virginia. And Virginia actually had been really starting to play good. Of course, they had the big win against Duke on the road, upsetting the Blue Devils as 11-point dogs. But when I look at Miami and the versatility they have and the options they have, and on their best day, they can match Virginia defensively. They've had some games where they've had defensive lapses, but, at the offensive end, I like that they've got balance. Jordan Miller can beat you. Cameron McGusty can beat you. Isaiah Wong can beat you. And Charlie Moore can beat you as well for Miami. I like them here in a spot after losing to Virginia earlier this year on the road in Charlottesville. I think it's payback time tonight. I like the Canes laying the deuce at home. Connor Mack, what do you think?
Yeah, and this is one the Canes need, to just keep winning, be in the tournament. And so I like them as well. I took it right away last night. This is dropped. I still think it could stay under this total, but now at 127. When I saw the 130 last night, that was an auto bet for me, the under here. And it's dropped, obviously, 3 points already, but I still think this game could stay under.
All right, under, and you got a good number on that because you're right, it's dropped since you took it. Max, any opinions here, Virginia and Miami?
Mute.
Yeah.
I'm going to ride Miami if I'm on anything in this game, but it's not one of my favorite spots in any kind of sense.
And the reason for that is because Maxwell is focused on the extra board, the added board, and we're going to get back to another Maxwell Smart added board selection right now.
Yeah, listen, I want to go to Gardner-Webb and Presbyterian. I think that Gardner-Webb is playing some of their best basketball of the year. They've been pretty much an auto bet, and they've been good to me on the spread as well. Obviously, coming off their Winthrop loss, I do expect them to get right back into the saddle with their perimeter and three-point defense being definitely in the top 50 in the nation and being worthy of being there. I do think that that's exactly what you need going into Presbyterian. Presbyterian with Rayshawn Harrison and guys like Winston Hill are going to definitely put up better offensive performances than they do on the road. But the Blue Hose, they don't want to get into an up and down game. And with Gardner-Webb, they're solid at the free throw line. DeMaurian Williams, Kareem Reed, Zion Williams, all these guys are able to freaking put it in. And I like Jordan Sears defensively and as your floor general, even coming off the bench. I think that there's a lot of weapons that will have a better game tonight for Gardner-Webb, and the running Bulldogs will run all over the Blue Hose. So I like Gardner-Webb -1.5, and I like the under 127.5.
There we go, Gardner-Webb to get it done. And they've taken money. This was Pick'em. It's now -1.5, -2. So the money has moved toward Gardner-Webb in that one. Connor, did you have anything there?
No, I don't have a side. The only thing that worries me, I like the under as well with Max. I already have that written down here. They score a little more at home than on the road, but the way Gardner-Webb plays defense, you're right, Max. I think it would stay maybe low 60. So I'm with you. I definitely lean the under here.
Right, liking the under as well. Connor Mack in this one. All right, Maxwell, what else have you got?
Yeah, listen, I think that when we look at this Lipscomb game against North Alabama, they are a team that have obviously a ton of great three-point shooters, versatile big man in Asadula Ognisevich. I just think that at the end of the day, this is a number where they can finally win a game. It's been a big problem for them to do so. I think at 1.5, it's worth a shot, even at -125 on the money line. I think that with North Alabama, with CJ Brim and Jamari Blackman, you got a good foundation, a good 1-2 tandem, but you're going to need a little more in this game. And against Lipscomb's pace and tempo, I'm just not sure North Alabama can go shot for shot. Now, if North Alabama can turn this into a rock fight, really frustrate Lipscomb, then maybe they can have a chance. But in my opinion, and by my numbers, I think that Lipscomb at -1.5 or on the money line is a good play to make full game.
There it is, Lipscomb for Max in this one. Lipscomb, you can get them again close to a pick 'em, -1.5 on the road against North Alabama in that one. All right, we'll go back to the main board for a couple of games, and then we'll go to Max again for a few more of his. Let's go to Florida State Duke. Duke 15-point home favorites, 142 the total. I don't want to say for sure I'd lay the points with Duke, but I was considering it because, look, Duke actually lost to Florida State on the road earlier this year, and Florida State's, I think, completely different group than they were back then. It's got to be disappointing for Leonard Hamilton to see what this team has become. I mean, they've obviously had their share of struggles and difficulties. They had lost 6 in a row. They finally beat Clemson, although I don't know if that's saying much. They're at home. They barely beat them, and they still gave up 80 points. I mean, this team's been carved up at the defensive end the last 2 games. Duke coming into this game, they escaped with a win against Wake Forest. They've not been great as home favorites. The only concern maybe you have here, they haven't covered at home at Cameron Indoor since they beat Syracuse by 20, but certainly I think they've got the focus where it needs to be for Duke in this one. They do play at Virginia later this week, but and that is actually for Duke going to be another revenge spot for them where they're trying to avenge defeat. But you look at this team, and look at Florida State's given up 94 points, 37 of 67 from the field to North Carolina, and 80 points to Clemson. That's not good against Duke now on the road. Maybe a Duke team total, perhaps over the total, because if you don't like laying the 15, you can always go that route instead. I probably will actually prefer the team total because I don't want to wonder or guess what Florida State does offensively against Duke defensively, but I'm pretty damn sure Duke's going to do whatever they want offensively. Banchero and company will probably feast against this Florida State team right now with the terrible defensive prowess or lack thereof we've seen from them. So a Duke team total over does interest me. Anything here, Conor? Florida State, Duke?
No, just this Florida State team's just kind of hasn't lived up to expectations. We're playing better, dealing with so many injuries. There's a bunch of question marks today, too, who's going to play. I'd be with you maybe on that Duke team total. I still think it gets over as well. The regular total gets over. I think Duke gets around 85. So as long as Florida State can get 60, I think this could get over.
All right. Maybe a look to the full game over. Maxwell, anything here?
No, nothing for me on this one.
All right. We go to, let's see here. There we go. Drake, Loyola, Chicago. Good one here in the Missouri Valley. Loyola, Chicago, the Ramblers, 7-point home favorites, 134 the total in this game. Drake, of course, beat Loyola, Chicago, January 30th, 77-68 at home. So, again, redemption spot for Loyola, Chicago. However, we're talking about Loyola, Chicago laying 7 in this game, so they got to win by margin. They did against Northern Iowa, 85-58. They just took apart Northern Iowa. Is probably the best shooting, not probably, it was the best shooting game all year for Loyola Chicago against Northern Iowa. They had Lucas Williamson, Aher Ugak at 17 points. They had Chris Knight, 12 points. They collectively shot 62% from the field, 52% from three-point range. No doubt they couldn't miss a shot that day. Maybe a little bit more difficult here to do that this time around against Drake. And remember, they turned around Loyola Chicago, only beat Valpo by 2 in their last game on the road, laying 10. And laying bigger numbers has been a difficult proposition for Loyola Chicago. So I understand that they're trying to avenge a loss earlier this year to Drake. But when you look at the Drake Bulldogs, we've seen them be able to really score some points for sure at times. Lately, defensively, we've seen them kind of play better as well. Maybe is enough to keep them in the game. And the betting markets tend to agree here because you look at this line, it's come down ever so slightly. This is one of those spots where normally, I'm interested in the team that's trying to get some redemption here, but it seems like a few too many points to me. I'm at least leaning toward Drake here, getting 7 in this one. Any thoughts, Conor?
No, this is a pass for me. I think Loyola Chicago wins. Just you want to lay the 7 here.
All right. Maxwell, Smart, anything for you here?
Yeah, I think that if you're looking at this game, I think that a good way to attack it is to take that Loyola Chicago team total over.
All right. Yeah, team total over for Loyola. They certainly lit it up last time they were at home. No question. I'll throw out a couple of Big Sky looks for me. Certainly Eastern Washington, Idaho. Both of these teams play relatively fast from a tempo standpoint. I don't certainly trust Idaho defensively, that's for sure. Eastern Washington should score. So I'm looking at something like an Eastern Washington team total, or if you trust Idaho to get on the board. They are at home in this game, so you would think they got a better chance to contribute to the scoring. I know the total's high, 156, but I'd certainly think that game's got a shot going over the total there, Eastern Washington, Idaho. Conor, Mac, did you have any thoughts on that game?
No, this is a pass for me. I kind of look Idaho at Eastern Washington the other day at home. They got it done in OT. That's where I like them a little bit better. Them laying points on the road. Yeah, they could win here, but I'm not going to lay 4.5, 5.
All right, Max, anything here?
I definitely like the total. I think that in the first half, if you can get under 74, like 73.5 or 73, I think that has possibility going over, but I haven't bet anything in the game yet.
All right, and I'll just throw out some in brief here. UTSA's really been trending over. I'm interested there against Louisiana Tech as far as an over is concerned. Same with Rice and Florida International. Rice does not play defense. If their way of playing defense is just letting players get a free path to the basket. And we saw it time and time again. It was just too easy to burn them in transit. UAB just killed them in transition the other night when they hung 92 points on Rice. I mean, Rice is just a horrific basketball defensive team, and even worse with the transition game. And Florida International, they kind of slowed down their tempo earlier this year, but they've kind of gone back to playing with a little bit more pace and transition game themselves. So that looks like a game that could go over the total. A couple of Conference USA games that could go over the total. We'll get to Max's next added board look, but Conor, I mean, we're not going to get to every game, so why don't you throw out one of the games that you like that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, let's talk about this one. I think this number's too inflated and too big. Two teams that just played. So they both should be tired. One team that's not shooting it well, and I'm a little scared they shoot it well today. They could win and cover. But I'm taking, this is Oral Roberts, North Dakota. I'm taking North Dakota. North Dakota just got beat down by Kansas City, the Kangaroos, the Roos. But before that, they played good basketball and covered 3 in a row before that. They're at home. They lost at Oral Roberts January 20th. I remember the game. They were 20-point dogs there. They lost 80-76. Take the 11 with North Dakota here at home. Home dog, double-digit dog home.
Feels like, yeah, potentially an advantageous spot. Conor, did you, Max, did you have anything on that game?
I think that with Oral Roberts, we're always going to get a lot of love for them because of Max Abmas and because of what they did last year. But plain simply, he's not been his most offensive potent self lately, and that's been hurting the team. I think that Conor's on the right spot here, buy low situation against a team that is a bit overvalued in the betting markets.
Yeah, absolutely. Throw out another Big Sky total at you. Montana State, Southern Utah. Yeah, you guessed it. Another over for me. I mean, I like both of these offenses. Montana State, Danny Sprinkle's a good coach. There's done nice work with Montana State. You look at their recent results, 88. They lost to Eastern Washington, but you can't blame the offense. They scored 86. They shot the ball almost 50%. Very good. They're almost good to get into the 70s in every game, and we've seen that from Montana State now. 6 straight games where they've gotten into the 70s. Southern Utah, a team that's once again much better offensively than they are defensively. They gave up 100 to Northern Colorado in their last game, 195. This total is sitting in the high 140s. I think it's a reasonable number. It's in that 147 range. And you look at the previous few meetings, it's trended 4-1 to the over the last 5 head-to-head meetings. And you had games with higher totals than this one for the most part. You had a 149.5 total. It went over. You had a 157. It went over. You had a 153 with these two teams head to head. 4 of the last 5 went over. So that's what I like here. Montana State, Southern Utah over. Anything, Conor, in this game for you?
I agree with you here a little bit. I jotted this down last night that I think we see points here, and I'm with you. I only lean over.
All right, Max.
Yeah, I think that with Tevian Jones and John Knight at home, they're going to be taking the ball to the rim quite often, and they do hit their free throws, so that is key for them.
All right, Max, back to you now. Added board action. What have we got next up on the menu?
Yeah, listen, I'm going to our revenge spot for Houston Baptist, but I'm not looking at it from a spread perspective. Houston Baptist has been shooting the basketball extraordinary lately. It's like they got a wolf blood injection and it's lasted them for 4 games. I think that this team total
4 games? A 4-game wolf blood injection.
Yeah, it was some serious wolf blood.
Serious wolf blood.
It was. I can't freaking get any myself. It would definitely help my capping, but these guys are getting in. They're putting up big points. We're talking about a Houston Baptist team that in the beginning of the season was struggling to score 65 points in a game. Now they've been struggling to not score freaking 80 in a game. I think that when you get this revenge game, Houston Baptist is better than they were last time out. Their ability to get to the free throw line and their ability to keep their opponent off the offensive glass is what's going to play the biggest factor today. I think that Darius Lee has a big game. I think that freaking Jade Z has a big game. And I do think that we get some really good 3-point shooting from Houston Baptist. So give me their team total over 66.5.
There we go. Houston Baptist team total over 66.5. And that team doesn't play a lick of defense half the time. So I understand why he's going team total. Why trust a spread and trust them to get stops? Just trust them to score and make it happen offensively. It's probably safe with a team like that. Safer bet with a team like that, the team total. Connor, anything there?
Nope.
All right, Max, let's get back to another one you've got.
Yeah, listen, I'm going to go to the main board, but it is the Western Athletics, so I do classify it as mid-major basketball to me. And with Stephen F. Austin and Lamar, you have one of those classic situations where Lamar really doesn't have anything to play for. By standing purposes, they've already played themselves out of going to whack Vegas. And I just think that with Lamar, they score 57 points a game. They haven't really been healthy. They do hit some free throws, but it's just not going to be enough in this situation. I think Stephen F. Austin goes in there, pounds the ball inside to Gavin Kensmill, and really gets guys like freaking David Cackeries and Calvin Solomon opportunities to score inside and off the rebounds. This Stephen F. Austin team really can take the ball away from you, and if guys like CJ Roberts are freaking careless with the basketball, he's not only going to be a turnover machine, he's going to be a fouling machine, because we have seen him do that before. At the end of the day, Lamar just doesn't have the same kind of qualities I thought that they would when they brought in all these guys off the transfer market. And the safest way to play this game, once again, is to take Stephen F. Austin as their team total, 75.5. I think that it's something that they can get over, and they've shown on the road or at home, especially with dominant second half performances, that they can get into the 80s.
All right, there we go. Liking that game there in the WAC, Stephen F. Austin and Lamar. How many more games do you have, Max?
I got 2 more games.
2 more games. Well, I don't know if one of them is Norfolk State, but since someone's asking in the chat, why is Norfolk State only -2? Well, Norfolk State hasn't been covering the last few games, but here's the issue. The issue is they've been laying some big numbers in a couple of these games, to Maryland Eastern Shore, Delaware State, the last couple, and they just did enough to win those games. They didn't cover as big double-digit favorites there. They lost NC Central, and they lost that game to NC Central. That's the one straight-up loss they've had their last 9 games, but one thing you can count on with NC Central, especially at this time of year, Max will know this, they get better as the season goes on. Lavelle Moten's a legendary coach there. He's been there forever. That's a really good program, and he's done a great job there. They're always in the mix in this conference year in and year out. So Norfolk State losing to them is no great shame, in my opinion. They're only laying 2, though, now. We're getting them in a manageable price range. It's a great point made by you there, Steph Brusco, in our chat, against Coppin State. Now, I know Coppin State, you look at their recent results, they've struggled themselves for their last 5. It is a bit of a head-scratcher to me as well that Norfolk's only a 2-point road favorite. Connor, Max, what did you think there, Norfolk and Coppin?
Yeah, I did think that this line would get steamed up a little more, and really, with it staying like that, it makes me wonder if someone like Jalen Hawkins or Christian Ings or even Joe Bryan aren't going to be in the lineup. Coppin has definitely been tough at home, and they have thrived in those home dog situations. But at the end of the day, they're so inefficient and they rely on volume shooting. It just can lead to really big scoring games or really ugly unders. And the only way I'd be able to go with that line is Norfolk. Whether I'm walking into a trap or not, I'm stepping into it.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. It's like, geez, this looks pretty damn cheap here on Norfolk, the Spartans. What did you think here, Connor? Anything here?
Yeah, it does. It seems like a tricky spot. I'd still lean to land with them, but I think the better play is the over. I think there's only be points here.
Yeah, and with Coppin, you're going to get pace. It's just, are you going to get them running up and down the floor missing, 3/4 of their shots? That's always the issue. Inefficiency just kills this team half the time, and that's always been a big problem with them. All right, we've only got a couple games on the main board that are quote-unquote bigger games to break down. I'm going to bring one up right now. Kansas, West Virginia, and Colorado State, UNLV. We'll do both of these. Kansas, 4.5-point road favorites, 146.5 the total. I'm actually doing something I don't do very much, and that's lay 4.5 on the road with Kansas. I just don't think much of West Virginia. I think the team's just been dreadful. Defensively, it doesn't even resemble a Bob Huggins basketball team right now. They've been just shredded at that end of the floor. We know that other than Sherman, there's not a lot that can consistently show up for you at the offensive end of the floor for the Mountaineers. Kansas laying a reasonable number. I don't lay points on the road with Kansas often, but man, there's just very difficult for me to make a case right now with West Virginia. So I like Kansas there. And Colorado State, UNLV, this is a revenge spot that matters to me because Colorado State not only lost to UNLV at home, they actually got beaten down soundly in that game. It was probably one of their worst games they've played all year. And if I'm not mistaken, they haven't lost since this game, Colorado State. If you aren't watching Mountain West basketball, I love this conference. It's so competitive at the top. You got Boise, you've got Fresno,
man.
you've got Wyoming, you've got Colorado State. San Diego State is still, they've been up and down, but you still got to worry about them, I think, in the conference tournament with their pedigree. Colorado State's playing as good as anybody. Nico Medved's an awesome coach. Love the guy. He's done a great job, did a good job at Drake, doing a good job here. David Roddy, man, it's worth the price of admission. He's outstanding. The footwork, the agility, shot making, the defense, everything he brings you for Colorado State. I think they show up today and send a message to UNLV. You may have beaten us once. We're getting you back today. I actually laid 3.5 with them. It's gone up since then. I still like them at the 4.5. Any thoughts on those two games, Connor? Kansas, West Virginia, Colorado State, UNLV.
Yeah, I don't love anything about the Kansas, West Virginia. You got to lay the 4.5, 5. Premium there for them on the road. I do have to say, if you got the 3.5, that's a solid number. I'm going to wait. If this keeps going up and touches 6, I'm going to take UNLV. Colorado State wants revenge, but I think Thomas and Mack will be. UNLV is playing their best basketball right now with Hamilton at home. If it gets to 6, Colorado State might win, but I think UNLV can cover at home here. So I'd be on the Rebels. I'm just waiting. I already see a 5. So.
Yeah. The one concern I'd have for UNLV here, too, is they had a beyond an outlier shooting performance in the first meeting against Colorado State. They shot their brains out, essentially, in that game. Hamilton was one of them. He was just man-possessed in the first meeting against Colorado State. You got to believe they clamped down on him a lot more in this time around. And like I say, that was just a off-the-chart shooting performance from UNLV in that game. I doubt that they're going to duplicate that tonight, especially Colorado State's just been rolling here the last several games. Max, did you have anything on those two that we just talked about?
Nothing on the Kansas-West Virginia game, but I do think that Colorado State and UNLV, with Colorado State, I do think that they're going to bring out some defense early on, really take away the 3-point shot from Bryce Hamilton. If they're able to do that, then they will cover the first half, but I also like the first half under in that game if they're going to be able to win on the spread.
All right, and we will do 2 more to wrap up the main board, and then we'll get to Max's final few games, and then we'll wrap it up for a Saturday edition. All right, BYU St. Mary's, as well as Oregon, Arizona. We're going to do those 2 games. St. Mary's, 6-point home favorites, 134.5 the total. I could only back St. Mary's here. BYU's too erratic for me. St. Mary's is undefeated in that little gym in Moraga, which is I always love watching that gym on television. It's just so puny little gym that they play in, but they play well there. And just ask San Francisco. San Francisco was trying to pay St. Mary's back for a brutal loss earlier this year where they had a huge lead and they lost it at the end. But St. Mary's just pulled away every single time San Francisco got close. They frustrate teams with the slow pace, with the very, very tenacious defense that they play. And to me, I've seen just too much inconsistency out of BYU. I mean, one game they'll look phenomenal and one game they'll look terrible. And it's a shame because there's a lot of good parts to that Brigham Young basketball team. There's no question about that. But I think it's got to be frustrating for Mark Pope as well, what he's seen from this group. Way too many inconsistencies. And from a point spread perspective, they've been an unmitigated disaster. 8 straight point spread failures for BYU. 0-8 against the spread going into this game. Barcelo, great player. Tejon Lucas getting him transfer from Milwaukee's been good. Gideon George, Caleb Lohner. I mean, there's lots to like with the team, but a lot of times their defense falls apart. That's certainly happened the last few games. 76 to Pacific in a loss. How does that happen? How do you give up 76 points to Pacific? I still can't believe that one. Obviously Gonzaga is going to hang a big number on them, but Loyola Marymount gets 82, Pepperdine 85. They didn't even come close to covering last game, 91-85 at Pepperdine, who's a horrible team this year. It's not the Pepperdine team with Colby Ross anymore and Kessler. Those guys have moved on from that program. That's a bottom-tier Pepperdine team this year, and BYU barely survived them the last game. So there's a huge gap in these two teams defensively right now. That might show up I can only look St. Mary's here, -6. What do you think, Connor?
Yeah, me too. How do you back BYU? The problem is I like St. Mary's the other night when they were laying just like 3. Just a little bit tricky. I think St. Mary's take care of business, but now BYU's not catching points usually ever. This many at 6. Even how bad they've been, no way I'm taking them. But it'd be St. Mary's or pass for me here.
All right. Any thoughts on the West Coast Conference showdown there, Max, with BYU St. Mary's?
Yeah, I think that the thing that we make the mistake year in, year out is thinking that you can stop one thing that St. Mary's is doing at home and then beat them. I think that BYU gets a lesson in freaking how to bang some ladies of the night from St. Mary's tonight. And as crazy as that sounds, those Mormons, they ain't going in and getting a win.
No, that's definitely a good assumption right there, no question. San Diego State, Fresno, I will bring that up too. We've got San Diego State 2-point road favorites, 117 the total. Obviously, we expect a rock fight here with these two teams. You look at San Diego State, they've been playing great defense. Their offense it's been better lately, but you look at it, 2 of those were San Jose State, who are horrific defensively, and Air Force, not much better defensively. So how much do you want to make of that? Fresno's actually struggling a bit. That's 3 straight losses straight up in ATS for them. Wyoming, Colorado State, and UNLV as favorites in their last game. That definitely has been a bit of an issue for them of late. So they're not playing their best ball at the moment. Maybe winnable game here for San Diego State. And look, San Diego State's won 4 straight the last 2 years against Fresno. So Fresno's not shown an ability to beat this team. You only have to lay 2. I'll probably just look Aztecs money line here. Did you have any thoughts on this Mountain West game here, Max?
Yeah, absolutely. When I see a first half total of 54.5, even with Fresno in it, it's like calling me to bet the over. It's like calling me. And Noli knows wherever he is in the world is like, Max, you're such an over better. And yes, I am in this situation. Now you're on mute, Ian.
I got to mention this game too as well. Yeah, Robert Franklin, you're singing what I'm just about to mention. Long Beach State +5. There's nothing else that needs to be said. They're taking on Cal Santa Barbara. I get it. When you look at Cal Santa Barbara, they are certainly a team to be reckoned with. They're 5-point favorites here in this game. You look at the Big West right now and the way things are situated in that conference. There's no doubt that, Santa Barbara, a capable team, but how do you argue with Long Beach State here? They're 11-1 now in conference. It is a rivalry. I get it. But Long Beach State is absolutely rolling right now. They beat Santa Barbara 65-58. They were 4-point home dogs in that first meeting. They're 5-point road underdogs here. It's like the betting markets are reluctant to really price this team the way they should be. I mean, this has been a 10-0 straight up, 10-0 against the spread run. A lot of these wins have been by margin. I mean, their smallest margin of victory during this stretch has been 6 points. And every other game they've won by more than that, many of them by double digits. And now you can get Long Beach State, like I said, +5. How do you not take it? I mean, 10 straight wins straight up in ATS. Long Beach State for me, +5 against Cal Santa Barbara. One of the best bets in college basketball. It's been for weeks. Dan Monson's team playing great ball at the moment. What do you think here, Connor Mack?
Yeah. How can you go wrong with that?
Yep.
I mean, you just read it off. Take them. Also, I like the under here as well. I think this is way too many points at 138.5. I think it stays under the total.
Yeah. I mean, they're just a machine right now. Not only straight up, but obviously cashing for their backers. Max, Long Beach, and UCSB.
Hey, listen, I've been on these motherfuckers since the Wright State win, and they've been freaking paying for ladies of the night every time they hit the floor. When you talk about Colin Slater and his drive ability, Joel Murray, oh my God. Now they got Joe Hampton, they got Mansell. This team has length. They got guard depth. They will go in and continue cashing for us and making bookings. Slurp, slurp, slurp the cock soup.
Cock soup. Game of the day.
I mean, LBSU, baby, +5. I mean, how do you not? 10 in a row.
I got a hat somewhere. I just didn't wear it today. Fuck.
You ride that train until the train stops. Final game on the main board that we'll talk about, and then we'll get Max's last 2 games. Oregon, Arizona. Arizona 13-point home favorites, 153 the total. This is still Dana Altman, and I get it, and him coaching this team. I get it. That's an inexcusable loss against Arizona State. Terrible. How do you lose that game? How does that happen for Oregon against that team? And they need to get back on track big time, because 2 of these last 3 losses have been totally unacceptable. Losing at home to Cal as 14.5-point home favorites, and then getting blown out by 24 by Arizona State. My goodness, awful for Oregon. But this feels like a circle the wagons, buy low situation. And I love Arizona. Nobody's been singing the praises of the Arizona Wildcats more than me. And Tommy Lloyd, the job he's done, and the inside-outside balance, and the lethal transition offense, and the good defense, and everything that's so good about this Arizona team. But this feels like a buy low situation on Oregon. They need to show up in these, and they actually do. I trust Oregon more in these bigger games, believe it or not. Like when they went to Colorado and smacked down the Buffaloes, like when they beat USC on the road, or when they beat UCLA earlier this year. I find Oregon, falls asleep against a Cal, falls asleep against Arizona State, but it wouldn't shock me one bit to see them give Arizona one hell of a game. And I got to trust a good coach, and he is still a good coach, Dana Altman, to have his troops ready for a very important game, because they're falling into bubble category. And if they keep going down this path, they could find themselves even off the bubble, let alone making the NCAA tournament. So this is an important game for Oregon. They're getting 13. I think they can stay inside that number. Conor, what do you think here? Good Pac-12 matchup late night, Oregon, Arizona.
Well, this has almost got me wanting to play Oregon, but I've done one thing, not play them, and it's saved me money, because early on it gave me plenty of gray hairs. As I told Max, if I mention I'm going to play Oregon, he tells me, stop it. Stop what you're doing. Don't do it. And I'm going to do that here, even though it's a shit ton of points. Arizona could beat them down. I don't know. This team, I watched that Arizona State game. Yeah. That was awful. That was Arizona State's playing better. You got to give them a little credit as of late, but that was bad. So I'm off here.
Yeah, absolutely. They are playing better. Bobby Early's team does have talent. He's not the greatest coach or X's and O's guy, but he's got talent. He recruits guys and solid players in there. They beat UCLA recently, Arizona State, so there's no doubt they're playing better, but shouldn't lose to 24 like that by them. Jacob Young has got to play better. You can't be 1 of 7. You can't be 1 of 12 combined from the field and 4 points. He's one of your catalysts. Will Richardson had a solid enough game. Davion Harmon gave you a goose egg. Nothing from him. 0 points. 0 for 8 from the field. So Davion Harmon, Jacob Young, if they're going to shoot like that, combined 1 for damn near almost 20, you're not going to have no shot here if you're Oregon. So those 2 guys in particular got to step up here tonight against Arizona. Max, fascinating game. Did you have any thoughts on it?
Yeah, listen, I like my Canadians on both sides. Obviously, Conor, when we have our fellow Canadians in any college basketball game, we got to recognize that stuff. And I think that when you look at this game, I think that I'd rather watch a chihuahua get mounted by a squirrel than bet on it.
Yeah, no
there
shit.
You go. That tells you it's a tough game. The translation from Max Smart there. All right, well, we're wrapping up the show shortly, but before that, Max, you got 2 games left on your added board. Let's see what they are.
Yeah, listen, I think that when we go to a game where we want to see some excitement, where we want to see some animosity, Winthrop and UNC Asheville is the game to go to. UNC Asheville, has just been a really good early riser. They freaking go, they drink their orange juice, they have their freaking slice of banana bread, and then they go take care of business for their backers when it comes to early day action. And of course, we got an afternoon game. Winthrop, on the other hand, I don't know what they're doing at night. They may be trying to freaking tip cows or something like that, because they just do not get off to good starts on these early games. Yes, Corey Hightower's back. DJ Burns is very unstoppable inside, but Asheville has their own dominant big man, a guy who doesn't do it very traditionally, but he fucks with his eyes open. His name's Drew Pember. Pember will be the difference today. I think that UNC Asheville is able to turn Winthrop over, really hawk them, take advantage of their efficiency and effectiveness and getting to the free throw line. And regardless of their 3-point shot being on or off, we know what they're going to bring. We're going to bring that shutdown, chase you off the 3-point line, close out on you, make you uncomfortable, and say something that makes you look at him and go, huh? You just said that? UNC Asheville gets their revenge today at home. Fuck with your eyes open. Bulldogs.
There you go. NC Asheville time for Max Smart in that one down there. That should be an interesting one. That is a rivalry. That is. And they've had some really good squads in the past, those two programs, no question. All right, last but not least, Max, what do you got?
Listen, it's a dirty game. People are going to be like, Max, why do you like such trash games? Because I'm like, there's a small handle on them. Not a lot of people are betting them. And that's what I like to be on as far as a game on a Saturday, because Saturday is volatile. So I go to Mississippi Valley State versus Texas Southern in the SWAC. Shout out to my guy, Trey Day. Uno #1 will be on Texas Southern's football team next year. Fucking with his eyes open, but the basketball team today is going to be slurping some cock soup, because when you go into the Delta Devils den, you better be ready for war, because these kids, they bring it. And even with Caleb Hunter looking like he's 45 years old with that bald head, he is going to help this freaking cause today. I have this game should have been more around 5 or 6 instead of double digits. You can get 11 with Mississippi Valley State right now. I like that. I like the over, and I like their team total over 66.5. So love Mississippi Valley State. Hopefully it doesn't come back to haunt me.
There you go, the Delta Devils to get it done for Max Smart with Mississippi State.
I got a question for Max real quick. Max, what do you think of this game? It's moved up 3 points just about. High Point, Radford. It keeps moving. I want to take this under. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, I think that with Radford, we do expect better home play from them, but they still have the same offensive inefficiency, especially if Rashawn Williams isn't in the lineup.
Yeah, I'm just surprised this is up to 130. I'm looking at this under. Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
They've definitely had their offensive struggles. So I would definitely see what you're thinking there, Connor, with the under. All right, Connor, this is it. Last chance. Final answer. Is there any game we haven't talked about that you are looking at?
No, I think we're good. I like Grand Canyon a little bit at home today, laying the short number. And one more, I'll just go real fast, is Rhode Island against George Washington. George Washington beat Rhode Island. Rhode Island's now 4-point favorites on the road. They might win, but there's no way I'm laying points. I'd be on George Washington. They play a lot better at home, so I'd be on G-Dub catching 4 at home here.
All right, G-Dub, maybe looking at them here as they catching points in that one against Rhode Island. There we go with Maxwell Smart and with Connor Mack. That is your Saturday college basketball net profit show breakdown. 232 live viewers in the chat. Hit the like button. We appreciate that very much. We will get to best bets, and we will get to best bets to wrap up the show in just a second. Here we go. All right, Southtown 101, when you're in San Antonio, Texas, where many of us will be next month. Make sure you stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke, Manscaped, promo code PubSports, 20% off using the promo code PubSports, and MyBookie.ag, promo code PubSports, NBA, college basketball, NHL, UFC, and more. Sign up for an account, MyBookie.ag, promo code PubSports, Bitcoin accepted currency for your deposit there as well. All right, best bets to wrap up the show. Connor Mack, what do you got for best bet?
I forgot to mention it. It's dropped a little bit. Team to look out for, obviously, Chattanooga really good at home, but VMI, they can shoot, and a team that shoots, makes free throws, can hit threes, could stay in that game. It's dropped to 8.5, but just wanted to throw that out there. We missed it from earlier. And lean over. I got to take it, 4.5, North Texas, because I took it money line as well. I think it's too many points. I think not only they get revenge, but this game is close. So it's too many points with the better defense. North Texas plus 4.5.
North Texas, the Mean Green plus 4.5 at UAB. Best bet for Connor Mack. Maxwell Smart, best bet.
Listen, we've talked about it. I'm surprised that we're not all making it our best bet. But Long Beach is going to zone up on Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara's weak like kitten backcourt are going to freaking take a night off. And they're going to be like, yo, we don't want to fuck with these guys from Long Beach. All right? It's Colin Slater time.
LBC.
Long Beach money line plus 180, Ian.
Yeah, never mind the 5, plus 180. We're talking about a team that's won 10 in a row, so it kind of feels like that. Never mind point spread. 10 in a row they've won, and they're getting 5. So screw the points, plus the price on the money line. Long Beach State for Maxwell Smart with his best bet on this slate. My best bet, man, it's tough. There's a lot of good choices, a lot of good options. I'm going to go with Arkansas against Tennessee. Arkansas has been good to me. I like this situation for them. Arkansas, you can get minus 130 at home. Tennessee off the big win against Kentucky. Arkansas has just been amazing at Bud Walton. I think they get another big home win today. Arkansas, minus 130 against Tennessee. That'll be my best bet. And that'll wrap up this edition of the Pub Sports Radio Saturday Net Profit College Basketball Show. You can check Connor Mack and Maxwell Smart Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern with the Net Profit Show right here on Pub Sports Radio. And you got to wait a while to see the NBA Pub Hub. We're not back till Thursday after the All-Star break, but we will be back late in the week, Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern with the NBA Pub Hub following the break. That's a wrap for Connor Mack and Maxwell Smart. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. We'll see you again next Saturday for another Saturday Net Profit College Basketball Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.